Good evening, guys. Sora Bell here, and tonight's going to be the very first round for my Reddit Championship Series analysis. Um, this is just going to go over, like I said in the other video, it's just going to go over my matchups, and I'll give some insight into some things as I talk about them. Again, there will not be a round one, so this is going to start with round two, just because I personally didn't feel round one was all that interesting. It was a very one-sided game, and I don't find that very appealing. So we're just going to go into round two with something a little bit better. So as you can see, we're playing up against Dragon Link. Our opponent is Christian. So we immediately lose the die roll, which is not very good against this deck, but I mean it is what it is. So our hand is just hit show both. Parlor, Tempest, Tidying, Guard Dragon, and Ash. So this hand works. Drawing Tempest sucks, and Tidying isn't really an extender if you open it with Parlor, but again, Parlor World Legacy makes it work. And my opponent opened with Tidying, Quick Launch, Tracer, Black Metal, and Synchron. So Black Metal, hard open Tidying, and Quick Launch is pretty good here. These two really don't matter all that much, but we're just going to get into it. So he's going to normal summon the black metal and go into Striker. Chainlink 1, Striker, Chainlink 2, Tracer, or Chainlink 1, Black Metal, Chainlink 2, Tracer, Boot Sector, Red MD. And he's going to banish, revive, and he's going to make Seal. So he's going to use Boot Sector here for the Tracer and the Synchron to make LP Pisty. Really strong play. He opened pretty much full gas here. But we're going to keep going. I do have the Ash. That's really all I have, and it's not that great against this deck. But I guess you'll see what I end up doing with it. So he's going to go into LP, Striker, LP. And I'm going to Ash Blossom right here because in my mind, he doesn't have Tidying. I didn't know that he did, and so because with this deck, right, your hand traps aren't really the most effective usually because they can just push through it. So my goal was to get rid of Tidying so that I could break the board easier with something like Droplet if I draw it for turn, or if I draw a pot of prosperity and reveal it. So I usually Ash LP just because I want to stop my opponent. He's going to add back the Rocket Synchron and Quick Launch for the Tracer. And then he goes for the Pisty. Pisty, Revive, Tracer. And then he goes for Romulus. He doesn't really need Romulus here. He's just thinning his deck. And he gets the Ravine. And then he's going to make Savage. And he's going to have all the good board. Seal, Tidying, Savage. And I'm going to draw Noctivision. So another extender. Also, I forgot to switch to main phase 1. He's going to use his Savage Dragon on my normal summon. Super risky. He doesn't really know what my hand is, but he also doesn't really know what my deck does. So he's just shotgunning his negate. So that's fine. So I'm going to Striker Dragon, Chainlink to Noctivision. And I only have to play through a bounce. 2 bounces, actually. And I'm going to go for my own Romulus. And I'm going to draw off of Nocto, and I'm going to draw Red MD, which is really nice. And I get the Ravine. Ravine, Send Tidying, Dump Chamber, Banish. And I'm going to search the Fusion Spell right here. So the reason I go for the Fusion Spell is to make show here, because now his back is kind of against the wall on this. And I'm going to Banish for Tempest. And I'm holding on to my Red MD and my Guard Dragon. So the idea here is I searched Changeover with Show. So my opponent probably doesn't know. I don't know if he knows the deck, but I can use the Fusion Summon effect twice. So negating with Show is fine. So the idea is Savage doesn't matter. Its effect is turned off. I have to worry about the Seal, and as far as I know, the set card, which I don't know what it is. I make this board, and my goal is to attack over the Savage to force his negate, and then I negate with show and I summon house, and then use house to attempt to attack over Savage. So I'm going to move in the battle phase and do just that. And he's going to seal, and I'm going to chain show and summon house. And he's going to go for the Brotar play, discard the Ravine for the Levy, and I'm going to attack Savage. And he's going to Tidying House plus the Brotar so he can keep his negate. So my opponent doesn't realize, but he's in a really bad position because I'm going to now make Spheres and World Legacy Guard Dragon into full combo. So I'm going to revive Chamber, go for LP, effect to move, LP effect, summon out Nurse. Nurse is going to get me another body. And then I'm going to make Changeover, add it back to my hand. I'm going to fuse the two for show. And then I'm going to make Nurse into Pisty and revive back Red MD. Then I'm just going to use LP and Pisty to make another seal. And I'm going to summon back. I'm going to use Red MD's effect to summon back Parlor. And I'm going to make Unicorn. And I'm going to make Access Cult Talker. Targeting the Unicorn, obviously, to get the most attack. I accidentally hit the coin. So just ignore that. I meant to put the chips on it. And so I'm going to pop the board, clean the whole thing up. Get rid of that boot sector launch, which could have been a problem. So see, now at the end of my turn, I have a bounce, an Omni Negate, and my graveyard's loaded. Show's going to get me follow-up. Seal's going to get me follow-up. My opponent can only use Levianeers to force the show negate. So all I really have is the bounce. But it's alright. My opponent doesn't draw into a natural extender, which makes this even easier. So I'm going to use Nurse, revive Parlor, Parlor effect, dump Tidying, just for some assurance. My opponent's going to banish Lights and Darks to destroy. And I'm going to use Show's effect, destroy Levy. And he's going to normal summon the Rocket Synchron, bring back the Red MD. So Rocket Synchron negates the effect, so just so you're aware, there was no way he could use the Red MD effect. So he's gonna go into the quad Boral. So he's probably gonna try the Savage play, and bring back. He's gonna target Access Code and special summon 4 rockets from his graveyard, or up to 4. Well, he had 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm gonna use my Spheres effect here now because this card has to destroy itself to use this effect. So I'm gonna tribute the Access Code Talker and bounce it, and the effect fizzles. So I'm gonna end phase, banish, Tidying for Chamber, and my opponent proceeds to end the game. So now after we're gonna do some siding, obviously my opponent's gonna try and go first again, which is fine. I expected it. So now my opponent drew a much better hand. Drago is not really that great in the opening, and neither is Brotar, but obviously Quick Launch World Legacy Guard Dragon fixes things. So yeah. He goes for the Tracer, and I hold the Lancia. I chose not to shotgun the Lancia, just because I didn't know how my opponent's hand was going to play out. I wanted to save the resource. And he's going to go into Seal, you know. We're all used to this. Nothing new. He's going to Guard Dragon, Brotar, pitch Drago, get Levy. And I'm going to Lancia here. So that he can't Levy me. So that when I nib him, he can't like cut his losses and try and rip a card out of my hand. Because my hand has combo, but it's like if I lose either one of these 2 cards, it becomes a really bad hand. So I can't let him summon Levy. So he's going to move LP, declare his effect. And I'm going to nib here so he can't get Tidying. So we're going to get rid of that. And he's going to pass his turn. So really nice display. 2 hand traps. You gotta love to see it. And his end phase, I'm going to special summon Parlor because Ernest has this effect. I'm going to use it to actually load my graveyard with Changeover, or it's Chamber actually. Because I can revive it with the Black Metal Dragon. Didn't actually know which one I sent. So I'm not going to use the Prosperity. I'm going for the OTK. There's no reason to play games. So we're gonna search the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, banish Striker, Red MD. We're gonna special summon Chamber, and we're gonna use Chamber to search the trap because we haven't used Parlor's effect, so we can use Parlor to search the fusion spell. He has no hand traps, making this even easier. I'm gonna make Seal effect, send the Tidying for the Reborn, banish Nurse Parlor, playing around Nib, so we made the Seal ahead of time, just so we wouldn't be screwed over. Things went south. And we're gonna LP into Lorpar and use changeover to put Lorpar back in our hand, just so that we have it in circulation, because we have all the maids we need, and we just get Pisty to add back. Then we fusion summon for show, and we clean up. We're gonna go into a second Seal, then use Seal in to make Unicorn, and then we go into Access Code Talker for lethal. And that's the game. So, yep. This was a very good matchup for me, and I think Dragon Link is actually a winning Dragon Maid matchup, because to talk about it and what you guys saw, it's true that our deck can't play into the Dragon Link board for just free, right? But the thing about it is, you only need one or two pieces. You either need two pieces of like minor interaction, which isn't that great, or you need one really nice negate, like a Dark Ruler No More, or a Droplet, or a Nib, or even a Lancia in some cases, to weaken the board so that you can plow straight through it, right? Because our deck plays so many natural extenders in our engine. And so what it ends up becoming is Dragon Link is like a more consistent version of the Dragon Maid strategy, but it exchanges strength for consistency. And when I say that, so what you'll find is in a war of attrition, our deck is better than theirs because we're doing the same plays that they have in a much more unfair way. Our boss monster show in comparison to Savage does the same thing, except it destroys as well, and it special summons a resource every standby phase. So we have the benefit of just beating them through sheer card quality, all if we can simplify the game state, which makes this a very winnable matchup, provided you draw at least one piece of viable interruption. So yeah, that's gonna be this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for round 3. Have a great evening.